Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to a video all about laptops, as today we're looking at this, the Asus GL702VM, and this is an ROG notebook that's very much aimed for gamers. But the reason I was drawn to it and the reason I asked for a review sample is because it's fairly lightweight. It is 17 inch, so it's not the smallest thing in the world, but it weighs 2.73 kilos, which is definitely quite a lot, and it's not the lightest laptop by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a lot lighter than a lot of more heavy-duty laptops, things with GTX 1080s and things like that in there. It's a lot lighter than that, and yet for its 1080p display, the GTX 1060 inside it will pretty much be able to power any game. So you've got portability and power. But does that translate well into a good laptop? Well, it all starts with the design really, doesn't it? And the design is very much gamer centric, and as someone that would want to use this for work and gaming, it does put me off a little bit. It does feature a bright ROG logo on the back that illuminates, and then moving around to the insides of the laptop, the bezels are actually fairly well controlled. They're not very big at all for a gaming laptop, and I have to say I was fairly impressed. The design from a build quality point of view isn't the best. It's not bad, but there is a fair amount of flex to the body, and of course it's made out of plastic rather than aluminium that you'll find on something like the MacBook Pros, or carbon fiber that you'll find on the Dell XPS. But of course those are different laptops. I'm just trying to make the comparison between quality and the price that you pay for it, as those laptops are actually similar price but do have better build quality. And then moving to the keyboard, it's all illuminated with a red backlight, which is fine, but I personally prefer a white backlight as it does make your keys easier to see. And then you'll probably already notice that the W, A, S and D keys are orange with a different textured finish to the rest of the keys. Elsewhere on the keyboard you'll find that we have function keys, but some of them are a little bit strange. I would definitely prefer to have media keys, play, pause and skip, rather than things like airplane mode, because I mean you're not really going to be doing that very often, whereas you're listening to music all the time. And the trackpad itself works really well as well. Again, obviously it can't compete with the like of the MacBook Pro, but I think for most people it's going to be absolutely fine. It's a lot better than some of the trackpads I've used, and bearing in mind most people are going to be using a mouse and keyboard for gaming anyway, it's not really that much of a deal if it wasn't perfect, but actually I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised, and it is very easy to use. Specs wise though, it's fairly impressive. We've got an i5 here, and this is the i5-6300HQ. This is a Skylake processor, not a Kaby Lake processor, so it is a little bit outdated, but they may well update this in the future. You can also get an i7, and this will be a little bit faster. It features a 3.5 GHz boost versus the 3.2 GHz boost that you will find on this laptop, and I would actually recommend doing that as we will see later. The CPU is actually the limiting factor here rather than the GTX 1060 that is also in this laptop. And alongside those two you'll also find 8GB of RAM, and this is DDR4 at 2133 MHz. It does feature an SSD. It's a 128GB PCIe SSD, but sadly it's not an NVMe SSD, it's sadly only a SATA SSD, which is slightly slower, and the read speeds were around about 480, and then the write speeds were around about 420, which are fine. I mean, they're absolutely fine. It's just a shame that they couldn't stick a slightly better SSD in there, but I do understand that it's more about price, and for gamers it's probably not going to make that much difference. You'll also find a 1TB spinning hard drive as well for mass storage of all your games. As far as the port selection on the laptop goes, we've pretty much got everything I would want here. We've got a power jack next to a gigabit LAN, mini DisplayPort 1.2, HDMI, and then we've got two USB 3.1 ports. One is a Type C with Thunderbolt, and then the other is a Type A, and then next to that is a headphone microphone combo jack. And then on the other side of the laptop you've got two more USB 3.0 ports, followed by a SDXC reader as well, so for quick and easy photography or anything like that, it's nice to have an SD card slot. And then on the back of the unit you will find a ridiculous amount of cooling, and the whole thing does get moderately loud when you are gaming, and even under mild load the fans do come on a little bit, but to be honest it's actually not too bad at all. The whirring noise is not as high pitched as on other laptops, and it's quite easy to get used to and drone out. So that's everything you need to know about this laptop from a on-paper specification point of view. But what is it actually like to use in the real world? Well, actually pretty damn good, and it's grown on me a lot. I really like the fact that something this powerful can be as portable as it is. As I am at university, I'm literally about to finish, and if I'd had something like this from when I started, that I could literally just play all the games I wanted to, it has plenty of power for all the tasks and all the work I want to do, and then when I'm done with it, I can literally just stick it in my bag, take it on a train, take it home. That's exactly what this thing is designed for and exactly what it excels at. The display on the laptop is actually pretty good as well. It's IPS and it is only 6-bit, as reported in the NVIDIA control panel. But I don't really think anyone would notice. It's fairly rich, fairly vibrant. It goes bright enough as well. If you want to use this in direct sunlight, then it's probably not going to be the best thing out there. But it's a matte finish as well, which does do a decent enough job of stopping reflections, especially compared to a touchscreen glossy display. It's 75Hz as well, so when you are playing games it is that much more responsive, and it's got G-Sync, which should help reduce stutter and tearing in your games. As far as performance goes, in real world web browsing, doing a little bit of moderate image editing, something like that, it's absolutely fine and it can cope no problems. The keyboard is not too bad, it's not the best I've ever used, but it's actually pretty good. I write a lot of reviews for Trusted Reviews, and I've written a few on here. I did one with the laptop with a keyboard and one without, and while obviously it was easier with a dedicated keyboard, I had no problems using the keyboard for this whatsoever, and I wasn't really making many mistakes, which is definitely a plus point for a laptop. But this is a gaming laptop, so of course it all comes down to gaming performance. And I wasn't disappointed, to say the least, but for some reason I was unable to get G-Sync to work as well as I would like, and by that I mean I was getting frame rates anywhere between around about 50 and 70 frames a second, and I was getting a load of stutter, and I was just completely unable to decipher why this was happening. Looking in the task manager showed that this is a CPU limited laptop in both Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1, which are both the games I'm playing at the moment, which should pretty much goes to show that if you do want to play the most demanding titles, then you should spend the extra £150 and get the more powerful i7 version that comes with hyperthreading and has an extra 0.3 GHz as well in the raw boost speeds. But in terms of benchmarks though, I've got my trusty list in front of me. It was pretty impressive really, to be honest. Battlefield 1 on the high preset, 60.4 average frames a second, but again this is CPU limited, so you can bump that up to ultra if you want. I just kept it on high just to minimize the stutter, because the thing that's annoying about the stutter with CPU limited stutter is it's pretty much whenever a grenade goes off or something like that, then the frame rate drops by about 20 frames a second, and it's very noticeable. Titanfall 2 though, 60.7, again on high average frames a second, all at the 1080p native resolution of the display. And then Mass Effect 2 was a game I've been playing probably the most on this laptop, and as you'd expect from an older title, it was a solid 75 frames a second without issue. And if you are wanting to get this to play games, make no mistake, pretty much anything you can throw at it, it will handle. But again, just to reiterate, please get the i7 version if you can afford it, because it will give you just a little bit more headroom and it will allow you to crank those settings up a little bit further without having to worry about being CPU limited, or at least it will help you if you are CPU bound. And so with that, it's time to wrap up this video. I really do like this laptop. It's pretty much perfect for someone that does want a portable gaming machine that doesn't need to hook this up to an external display and doesn't need to run any resolution higher than 1080p. But it's pretty much got all the I/O that you need. I do just wish that it had a slightly bigger SSD. I wish that it had slightly more RAM, because 8GB may get limiting in certain titles as we go forward. And of course the i5 CPU in this isn't quite enough for Battlefield 1, but it's all going to depend on the titles you want to play on this machine, as anything that is slightly older or slightly less CPU demanding, you're going to have an absolutely fine time. Which is why this wins the top purchase award. As long as you're buying the appropriate specification for the games that you want to play, I don't really think too many people are going to have too many complaints. So there we go. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Like the video if you have, dislike it if you haven't, subscribe for more videos just like this, and if you do want to see the review of that Acer Predator laptop, I will leave that over there. A massive thank you once again. I'll leave the links to this product in the description down below, and I'll see you in the next video.